Hey everyone, Shadowlands here and welcome to my Assassination Rogue PvP guide for Shadowlands Season 1. If you follow my YouTube channel a bit, you know that I've been playing Assassination up to Elite before it became popular again. Now, maybe thanks to some of my videos, we never know, and also thanks to a couple rogues playing Assassination at the AWC, people have started to realize that the spec is strong again, and that it actually performs well against comps that counter Salty Rogue. And so I've decided to make a guide. I'll follow the same pattern as my Salty Rogue guide, which you can find on my channel, and so this video will cover stat priority and gearing, talents and honor talents, covenants, conduits, legendaries, rotation, macros, and arena comps. And now let's jump straight into it and start with stat priority and gearing. As Assassination Rogue in PvP, your stat priority is versatility, haste, mastery, and critical strike. Versatility increases all your damage done by a flat amount and decreases all your damage taken by half this amount, which makes it the go-to stat for PvP. There is also a PvP trinket set bonus that increases the damage bonus from versatility by 40%, increasing the value of the stat even more. You want versatility on every piece of gear, every ancient, and every socket if you have any. Haste, the second best stat, is truly amazing as Assassination. It increases your auto attack speed, which makes you do more damage with auto attacks. It increases your passive energy regeneration, allowing you to use more spells, and it increases the tick rate of your bleeds and poisons, causing Corruptor and Garrote to deal more damage because they tick faster. But the reason why it is such a great stat is because you have a passive called Venomous Wounds. Each time one of your bleeds deals damage to a poison target, you get energy back. If your dots tick faster, as I said, you deal more damage, but thanks to this passive you also get more energy back, allowing you to use even more abilities and deal even more damage. Your third best stat, Mastery, is a flat damage buff to your bleeds and poisons. Envenom, Shiv, Poison Bomb, System Shock, and so on are, of course, poison attacks, and therefore their damage is increased by Mastery. In the end, Mastery is a great stat, but since versatility and haste are better, you won't get too much of it. Your last stat, Critical Strike, isn't that good in PvP. Assa has a bit of synergy with the passive called Seal Fate, but it's not enough to make Critical Strike worth being picked over any other stat in PvP. Regarding gearing, you want haste and versatility on as many pieces of gear as possible. Luckily, I think that the PvP vendor allows for this except for the gloves, the second ring, and the weapons. Since I'm using my legendary on the gloves, it is only the ring and the weapons that won't have haste. My current gear is now okay since I got upgrades this week, but it isn't the best example as I was initially gearing this out towards Salty, and I was very unlucky with the Vault when I decided to go for Assa. But you can check the PvP vendor, I'm quite certain that the last time I checked, there was Haste Burst on almost all slots. Now, if you're raiding Mythic at high level and have killed Stone Legion, the 233 cloak with Haste Burst there is the best cloak in the game for Assa. The weapon token on Denathrius allows you to get a 233 Haste Burst dagger, so that's the best dagger in the game for Assa. If you can't have this, then the best daggers are the PvP ones, over 226 Haste Burst ones, even though the PvP ones have crit, just because item level is what matters most on weapons, and PvP weapons can be upgraded to 233. About trinkets, you need one CC trinket and another PvP trinket. If you are human, you have a way out of stuns with your human racial, so you can pick the Relentless trinket to reduce all incoming CC duration by 20%. If you are not human, you have to pick the medallion to have a way out of stuns. The second trinket will be either Emblem if you are playing 3s on a high level and need the extra defensive, and otherwise it will be Badge and you will use it with Vendetta, and in between every Vendetta since the cooldown is only 1 minute. And I think that's it for the stats and the gear. Now let's move on to talents and honor talents. In this video I'll only talk about what I think is the best and most stable build. I'm not going to cover one-shot builds or similar stuff as I don't believe this is how the spec should be played, and I think that at higher levels it will fail more often than not. On the first row we have Master Poisoner, Elaborate Planning, or Blindside. Blindside gives your Mutilator a chance to proc an ambush out of stealth and free of cost. While this talent is good in raids and is good for overall damage done, in PvP you don't have enough uptime for it to be worth it, and also since this is a proc you can't control when it comes up, so it could come up when you don't really need it, and so it's not really good. Elaborate Planning is a good talent. It gives you 10% more damage for 4 seconds after using a finishing move. It's especially good with Marked for Death in your burst window, as you are guaranteed to use a second Envenom while still in the Elaborate Planning window. That being said, outside of the burst window, the spec is too slow to make good use of this talent, and in my opinion the remaining talent of the row is better anyway. Master Poisoner, which is what I pick all the time, increases the damage of your weapon poisons by 30%, so 30% more damage to deadly and wound poison, and increases the non-damaging effects of your poisons by 20%. Since you use wound poison in PvP and it deals almost no damage, you do not pick this talent for the 30% damage increase. You pick it for the 30% increase to non-damaging effects. This makes your crippling poison slow be a 60% slow instead of 50%. This is great as most slows in the game are 50%, so with this talent, unless you face a DK, you have the better slow, so it's easier to kite and easier to catch a target that is trying to kite you. This talent also increases the healing reduction effect of wound poison by 20%, so instead of having a 20% healing reduction effect with 5 stacks, you have a 24% healing reduction effect. If you played Assa in BFA, keep in mind that wound poison was heavily nerfed in Shadowlands. Now it has to be stacked up, which is a big weakness as it is much harder to keep it up on an off target that is far from you, and it also makes you more vulnerable to poison dispels. Also, its power was reduced. It used to be a 25% healing reduction effect, but buffed to 30% with Master Poisoner, and now it's only 20% and buffed to 24% with Master Poisoner. So this is part of the reason why Assa is much weaker in Shadowlands than it used to be in BFA. Anyway, on the first row, my pick is Master Poisoner. On the second row, we have Night Stalker, Subterfuge, and Master Assassin. Night Stalker is nerfed down to 25% in PvP instead of 50%, and is not used at all aside from a couple cheesy one-shot builds that I do not recommend. Master Assassin is extremely bad as it's not worth blowing Vanish to maybe crit, but you're not sure. If you really want to crit after Vanish, then you can use the Legendary that gives you a 100% crit chance instead of this talent. That leaves us with Subterfuge as the only option, which is great as Subterfuge is an amazing talent. It gives you access to your stealth-based abilities for 3 seconds after stealth breaks, so Sap, Cheap Shot, Garrote, and Ambush. As Assassination, you have a very limited access to your stealth-based abilities, so being able to stun or silence multiple enemies in your opener or on your Vanish is key to winning games. It also buffs the damage done by Garrote by 40% in PvP combat, which is nice. You will see that Garrote is a good part of your overall damage. You will always pick this talent. On the third row, we have Vigor, Deeper Stratagem, and Marked to Death. Deeper Stratagem does not really fit Assassination barring one-shot builds, as the spec is too slow. You don't generate enough combo points for it to be interesting. Vigor could be good, as it makes your energy pool bigger and gives you more energy regeneration, which is really lacking as Assa right now. But in almost every situation, the last talent on the row is simply better, so you won't be able to pick Vigor, and will go for Marked for Death instead. Marked for Death gives you 5 combo points on demand on a very short cooldown. This allows you to open with a kidney shot from stealth on your kill target, get an emergency kidney shot in a fight when you don't have any combo points and you need to stun right now, or simply gives you an additional envenom during your burst window. Being able to do the 3 things is really helpful. At the moment, I recommend always picking Mark for Death. If the meta ever slows down and becomes more about sustained pressure than burst damage, then Vigor will be a good option. On the fourth row, we have Leeching Poison, Cheat Death, and Elusiveness. Leeching Poison gives you 10% leech. If you think about it, it means that you heal for 10% of your maximum health if you deal as much damage as your entire health pool, so if you deal enough damage to actually kill your enemy, and that without taking dampening and healing reduction effects into account. So you get it, it's a very bad talent. Cheat Death is kind of the new player friendly talent. It will save you once every 6 minutes, and sometimes you will die through the damage reduction buff anyway. The last talent, Elusiveness, allows Feint to reduce all damage taken by 30% for 5 seconds. Feint only has a 15 seconds cooldown, which makes this talent very powerful. In my opinion, it is one of the most powerful talents rogues have ever had across all specs. You should pick this talent in every single situation as Assassination, and if you are not used to using Feint, then it should be at the top of your priority list to learn when to feint if you plan on playing rogue. You usually want to feint when the enemy team uses offensive cooldowns, when your healer is in CC, or when you know you're about to get stunned. Pre-feinting a lasso, a stormbolt, or a kidney shot is often the difference between living and dying. Since the spell has such a short cooldown, it will help you mitigate a ton of damage. But you also need to mind the energy cost so you don't harm your damage by pressing it too much when it wouldn't really help. On the 5th row, we have Internal Bleeding, Iron Warrior, and Prey on the Weak. Iron Warrior increases the duration of Garrote Silence by 1 second in PvP combat, and has a small damage reduction component tied to it. Overall, a bad talent, as there are games in which you can never re-stealth, so you don't get any value from this. Prey on the Weak increases the damage taken by targets you stun. It's okay, but it's only 5% damage increase in PvP. The last talent, Internal Bleeding, is really strong. Your kidney shot now applies a bleed to your target. This bleed deals significant damage, so using kidney shot will not only stun the target, but also deal damage to work towards the kill. Also, this bleed works with the passive Venomous Wounds, so it gives you energy back during your stun for even more burst. You will always pick this talent. On the 6th row, we have Venom Rush, Alacrity, and Exsanguinate. Venom Rush makes Mutilate refund energy if you use it on a poison target. To be honest, I haven't tried it this season, but ever since it's been changed to be like this, it has been a terrible talent. Exsanguinate is an interesting talent. When you press it, it halves the remaining duration of your bleeds on the target, but they tick twice as fast. Basically, it just takes all the damage of your bleeds and does it faster, so it's a burst cooldown. I haven't tried it in Shadowlands so far, but I think it can be fun and surprising. However, the only thing about this talent is that when you use it, yes, you gain more burst damage from your bleeds because they tick faster, so deal more damage, or deal damage faster, and give you more energy. But since the bleeds will fade faster too, then you will need to reapply them instead of spamming Envenoms. And in a new burst window, you don't really want to have to reapply Rupture, you want to use Envenom. So I'm not entirely convinced it would be good, but it could be. The last talent is Alacrity. It simply gives you a haste buff that you can stack whenever you spend combo points, up to 10% more haste. It's an okay talent, nothing amazing, but since haste is a great stat and this talent is fairly consistent, this is the one you want to pick at the moment. On the last row we have Poison Bomb, Hidden Blades, and Crimson Tempest. Crimson Tempest is an AoE finisher that applies a bleed on everyone around you, so that's not really what you need in an arena. Hidden Blades buffs your next Fan of Knives, and you keep stacking the buff as long as you don't use Fan of Knives. Again, this is an AoE talent that brings nothing to arenas. The only remaining option is Poison Bomb. It gives Envenom and Rupture a chance to smash a poison vial on your target, dealing AoE poison damage. It's a minor damage increase to your single target spells, so it's not all bad. Also, the damage done by Poison Bomb will not break CCs such as Sap, Blind, or Polymorph, which is great. When it comes to Hunter talents, the one you will always pick is Smoke Bomb. This talent is wonderful because it can be used for so many things. You can obviously use it to kill a target that has no trinket. You can also use it to force a trinket. You can use it to save yourself or a teammate from a big cast such as Cursebolt or Grappyro. Or you can use it to prevent a CC on yourself or a teammate such as Polymorph, Cyclone, Fear, Repentance, or whatever. The remaining two talents will very often be Maneuverability and System Shock. Maneuverability makes you immune to slows for 4 seconds after pressing Sprint, which can allow you to escape a dangerous situation or reconnect to your target if you're facing, let's say, an Affliction Warlock, a Warrior, a Monk, or a DK. Assassination has very little mobility, so picking this talent into teams with a slow is very important. System Shock deals damage and massively slows your target if you envenom with 5 combo points, and both Corrode and Rupture plus your lethal poisons are active on your target. It's a nice addition to your burst damage. So as I said, these talents are the ones that I use the most. That being said, a couple talents can have their spots too. Mind Numbing Poison is a really good damage increase against many classes. You can pick it instead of Maneuverability against teams that do not have a consistent slow, such as Shadow Priest Holy Pala in 2s or Boomkin Elemental Healer in 3s. I tried to pick it over System Shock a couple times, and the result was that I had more overall damage, but less burst damage, so in the current meta I would not pick Mind Numbing over System Shock. Finally, Death from Above can see play instead of System Shock if you're fighting against a very slippery enemy such as an Arcane Mage or an Affliction Warlock. You lose a tiny bit of damage, of burst damage actually, because you lose System Shock, but you gain DFA as a gap closer. That will help you stick to your target, and that means that in the end you do more damage. One thing to know about DFA is that you can immune CC during the animation. So if you time it properly, you can immune incoming CC. For that reason, I also pick this talent into comps such as Rogue Mage, as it can serve as a gap closer and also as a CC immunity to delay or defuse one of their goes. And I guess that's it for the talents and Hunter talents. Next up on the list is the Covenant choice. As Assassination, I think the best option is Night Fae by very, very far. Assassination isn't a very mobile spec, so having Soul Shape, which is the Night Fae signature ability, to either kite or reconnect to a target really helps. The Rogue Night Fae ability, Sepsis, also works particularly well with Assa. It is a poison and deals nature damage. Because of this, it is buffed by Shiv. So during a Vendetta window with Shiv active, a full Sepsis can easily deal around 13k to 18k dot damage on your target over 10 seconds. But that's not all, as Sepsis has a secondary effect. When the dot expires, you gain one use of a stealth-based ability. Now, as Assa, there is a little trick with this. Your stealth-based abilities are Garrote, Cheap Shot, Sap, and Ambush. The thing you need to know is that Garrote, if you use it with a Sepsis proc, only half behaves like a stealth ability. It will not benefit from the subterfuge damage buff, it will go on cooldown, and it will not consume the buff, as if it was not considered a stealth attack. However, it will still silence the target as if it was a stealth attack when you have the buff up. So as Assa, whenever Sepsis procs, you can use Garrote to silence someone and then cheap shot something else too. Basically, you gain access to 2 stealth attacks instead of 1, provided you use Garrote as the first one. What you can do also is use Sepsis, wait 4 seconds, because the dot lasts for 10, so when 6 are remaining, you use a kidney shot on the enemy healer to kill him. Sepsis will fade when the kidney ends, so you can follow the kidney shot with the Garrote, and then with the DR cheap shot for a 11 seconds long CC chain on the enemy healer while you're bursting him down. This combination can be hard to survive if the DPS isn't able to stop your damage on his healer. Regarding the soulbinds, both Naya and Dreamweaver are good options. Naya gives you a mastery buff when you use Sepsis, which is great as mastery gives you more burst damage, but the rest of the soulbind isn't amazing. Currently, I'm going with Dreamweaver. You obviously gain access to the pod, which will sometimes save you and win you a game, and the other passives are nice as well. Soothing Voice is good to have when you're a sap or cheap shot on an off-target wear off, as they are massively slowed for a couple of seconds. The last passive available in Dreamweaver also looks decent. When you use Sepsis, you will get flowers at your feet, and as long as you remain inside, you gain a haste buff. Haste is a great stat for Assassination, so this passive looks okay. The bad thing about it is that you have to remain in the flowers to get the haste, and you rarely are stationary in PvP. But usually you will use Sepsis on a target that is in a kidney shot, so you will very often keep the haste buff for as long as you are bursting your target down, which is what matters. I'll get to Reno in 34 a few hours after recording this, so I'll be able to test it out then, but right now I'm thinking it can be decent, but isn't super great either. So both Naya and Dreamweaver are good options. As a reference, I got to Elite as Dreamweaver, so obviously it works quite fine. If for some reason you do not wish to be Night Fae, then I would say that Necrolord is the second best for the spec. It will also get buffed in the next patch, so it looks like a solid option. Carrion would be third best, and Venthyr dead last, but I think that Venthyr also gets reworked for the next patch, so it might get better for Assassination. I guess time will tell. Now let's have a closer look at Conduits. As Assassination, you want to use 2 potency Conduits, as we have 2 very good ones. The first one is Septic Shock, which of course requires you to be Night Fae. As I mentioned just before, Sepsis does a lot of damage on your Shiv windows, and this Conduit makes it deal even more damage. The second potency I recommend is Well-Placed Steel. Sadly, while all my other Conduits are above 184, I only have it as 171, but it is still great. It increases the nature bonus damage given by Shiv. So instead of gaining 20% nature damage on Shiv, I will gain 32% with my Conduit item level. I believe that it goes up to 16% as to 26 for a 36% bonus damage. Anyway, there is an obvious synergy with Sepsis once again, and with the Conduit Septic Shock. But of course it also increases the damage done by Envenom, Poison Bomb, System Shock, and all other nature damage you may have. Your burst damage can be very scary with these 2 Conduits. For the remaining 2 Conduits, I like to pick Quick Decisions. As I mentioned several times already, Assassination isn't an overly mobile spec. Reducing the cooldown of Shadow Step will help you move a bit more in the arena. A consequence of reducing the cooldown of Shadow Step is that most enemies will assume you do not have it back for another 3 seconds, when you have it back already. Because of this, you may sometimes catch them when they don't expect it. Same thing with the range, it will help you reach targets, and they can sometimes think they are in a safe zone when they are not. It's a very good Conduit, and that's a good thing because all the other finesse Conduits are very bad for Assassination. For the last Conduit you have 2 options, Cloaked in Shadows and Recuperator. Cloaked in Shadows will allow you to re-stealth while having dots sticking on you, which is a real boon as a rogue. That being said, as Assa you will not go for re-stealth as often as you would as sub, so this Conduit, while good, isn't absolutely required. Recuperator is also a good option as it will provide you with a bit of sustained healing throughout a fight. That being said, it only is a good pick if you have Slice and Dice up most of the time. In many games I realized that I wasn't keeping Slice and Dice up a lot because I very often have more important spells to use my combo points on. For example, in the opener I will apply my dots, skinny someone, use Shiv, use Envenom during the Shiv window, then I will have to dot the second person with a Rupture, then I will probably get CC'd for a bit, then I will have to reapply the bleeds on the first person, and then I can kidney again already, which takes precedence over Slice and Dice. And in that kind of situation, I believe it is less valuable to use Slice and Dice than to stun right away after the DR or reapply the bleeds. Of course, you will use Slice and Dice when you have the opportunity to do it, but since I don't think you can keep it up always without wasting overall damage, I've decided to go with Cloaked in Shadows for now, just in case I want to re-stealth with a dot. I probably need more testing to decide which one is best. Feel free to discuss about that in the comments. I'm open to opinions. Um, and I'll talk to you about the fact that I prefer to use other spells instead of Slice and Dice later in the guide. Oh, and also, in the next patch, balance patch, there is a buff to Assassination, giving a passive that allows Envenom to refresh Slice and Dice. For now, we do not have this. Of course, when we will have it, Slice and Dice will be a lot easier to maintain, so Recuperator will gain a lot of value. Now that Conduit's done, let's have a look at Legendaries. In my opinion, currently you only have two options as Assassination. The first one, which I use and recommend, is Doomblade. The bleed part deals almost no damage, but it doesn't matter. What is good about this legendary is the envenom damage increase. You will always have growth, rupture, and the bleed given by this legendary on your kill target, so your envenom passively has a 15% damage buff. On your kill attempts, your kill target will be in a kidney shot and so will be affected by internal bleeding. One more bleed, so 5% more damage on envenom for a total of 20% more damage. When you have all your cooldowns and use Vendetta, Shiv with the Conduit well-placed steel, and this legendary, your envenoms will deal really high damage. And even out of your burst windows, you have more sustained damage since envenom deals more damage. It's a very solid legendary choice, and I already said I recommend it. The second option you have would be Master Assassin, but since you can't really burst in the first 4 seconds of your opener as Assa, since you have to apply dots, and don't re-stealth very often, this legendary will only be useful when you use Vanish. You can dot the target, Vendetta, Sepsis with Naya Mastery buff, Shiv, get 5 combo points, and then Vanish into a Silence or a Stun, depending on your target, followed by Envenom, Mark for Death, and Venom. That will be a ton of burst damage since everything will crit. The only issue about this is that once people have died to it once or twice and understand how it works, they will often survive it, and then you don't have a Vanish anymore to slap your blind, silence an important cast, or simply escape a dangerous situation. With how little mobility Assa has, and how rarely it can access stealth-based abilities, I really dislike using Vanish that way, and I don't think that in the long run it is the way you should learn how to play Assa or Rogue in general. But for now it works, so if you like it better, feel free to use it. I think that Duskwalker's patch could potentially be interesting too, although I haven't tried it yet and have my doubts. Assa is a very slow spec right now, so you don't spend a ton of energy, which reduces the value of this legendary. But with decent haste levels and a decent uptime, it can make Vendetta into a 1.5 minute cooldown maybe, which would perfectly line with Sepsis and also not with the enemy healer's trinket. That could be good in twos, but at the moment I'm making this guy, I don't think that it's better than the added damage Doomblade provides on burst windows and throughout the entire game. I read that this legendary gets massively buffed in 9.0.5, so it might be good in the future, we will have to see. The other legendaries available are simply not worth it as Assassination right now in my opinion, so unless you do PvE and need to craft Zoldyck's Insignia, as it is really good in PvE, don't waste your Soul Ash on other Assa legendaries. Alright, time to look at the rotation. I'll be going over the opener, the burst, and the sustained damage rotation. In the opener, as Assassination, you always want to sap a target. You don't have many stuns, and your GCDs to CC off targets are limited once you exit stealth, because you have so many things to do before you can do actual damage. When the target is in combat and you really cannot sap, then you will cheap shot to allow a mage or a priest to polymorph or fear, and then you will go for your kill target. At this point, there are two ways you can open after you land the CC on the off target. If your target is a caster or a healer and cannot do anything while in a silence, then you want to start with Garrote, Ambush and Rupture. At this point you will have all of your bleeds up and the silence will wear off. You'll follow the silence by a Mark for Death kidney shot to have your target stunned, and then Shiv, Mutilate until 4 combo points or more, and then Venom and repeat. If you want to burst your target in that opener, then you will use Vendetta when you press kidney shot and Sepsis just before Shiv. Then you will resume the Mutilate and Venom spell sequence. Now, if your target can do things while in a silence, such as a disarm, a stun, a paralysis, or can kite you, then you want to start with Mark for Death kidney shot from stealth, followed by Garrote, Shiv, and the 2 combo point Rupture. Then you will use Mutilate until 4 combo points or more, and press Envenom and repeat. You only apply a low combo point Rupture in the opener, because if you have someone in CC with Sab, you want to deal as much damage as possible to the kill target. If you wait until you have 4 or 5 combo points to apply that first Rupture, then you will not have enough energy or enough GCDs to use several Envenoms, so you will not have pressure. If you want to burst during that opener, you will use Vendetta right after kidney shot and Sepsis right before Shiv, and then resume with a rotation. When you want to burst and it's not the opener, you need to make sure that you do all you can to make sure that you can't be stopped. For example, try not to go all out if there is a warrior not in CC in range of your target, with Intervene, Disarm and Stonebolt available. You can't always prevent everything, but you can try to seize the moments where there are as little things as possible that will stop you, which will either result in a kill or force cooldowns. Now, to burst you want to have both Rupture and Garrote on your kill target. If you have Slice and Dice on yourself, it's a bonus, but do not delay a burst window when you have one just to apply Slice and Dice. Then you want to kidney shot your target and press Vendetta right away. The next spells will be Sepsis, Shiv, Mutilate, Envenom, Mark for Death, and Venom. And that's the end of your kidney shot. You can continue to use Mutilate and Envenom after this if you're about to kill. If it grants you a kill, you can also use Vanish to silence and restun right after kidney shot, and you also should be aware that Sepsis will trigger 4 seconds after the kidney ends if it is not dispelled, giving you access to Garrote and another cheap shot that you can use to DR stun if it makes you kill. Or if it doesn't, you can use it to stun the second target to CC them for a bit. Now, as I mentioned when I talked about Covenants, you can perform a slightly different burst rotation to have Sepsis trigger right when kidney ends to be able to silence and restun immediately without using Vanish. In that case, the burst rotation would be apply Garrote and Rupture, and then either the target has no defensives ready, so you can just pop Vendetta right away when they aren't in CC, Sepsis, Shiv, Mutilate, wait until 6 seconds remain on Sepsis, kidney shot, Mark for Death, Envenom, Mutilate, Envenom, Garrote silence with the Sepsis proc, get a bit of energy, cheap shot after the silence, Mutilate, Envenom. And if the target has access to defensive cooldowns and will use them when you press Vendetta, just press Sepsis, Shiv, and wait for kidney to use Vendetta. You can also have some sort of burst with either, with every kidney shot, with only Shiv and Mark for Death, and sometimes with Sepsis. Just use the same rotation I just described, but without Vendetta. If you have an unused trinket, use it alongside Vendetta always, and every minute, since the unused trinkets have only 1 minute cooldown and Vendetta is 2 minutes. And that's it for the burst. Now all that remains is the sustained damage rotation. It is more of a priority system than an actual rotation. As Assassination, you have the most pressure when you can bleed several targets and keep them poisoned. Because of this, the priority will be as follows. Use Garrote on your kill target. Use Rupture with 4 combo points or more on your kill target. Use your kidney shot and burst rotation on your kill target if kidney shot and Shiv are available. Use Garrote on the secondary target. Use Rupture with 4 combo points or more on the secondary target. Keep poisons up on the secondary target. Use Slice and Dice with 4 combo points or more, and finally use Envenom. While doing this, you use Mutilate to generate the required combo points. This is what you will usually do. Now I'll explain it a bit. You obviously want dots on your kill target as they are your main damage source and your energy income through the passive Venomous Wounds. You want to use your burst rotation as often as possible because this is how you kill, or at least build pressure and force cooldowns. And the rest of the time, well, because of the passive Venomous Wounds, you get a lot more energy by bleeding the secondary target too, and by keeping it poisoned. On top of that, your bleeds deal damage, obviously, so you make it harder for the enemy healer because he has to heal several targets, and so he spends more mana, and chances are that someone will not be topped when your next kidney shot comes up, which can lead to a kill. Of course, this reasoning works mostly in twos. If you play threes, it will heavily depend on your comp. For example, if you play Assassination in Rogue Mage Priest or Rogue Mage Paladin, you will rarely go and bleed everything, and you don't play for a win on mana and dampening, so you will simply set up and use your damage on only one target. But if you play, for example, Rogue Shadow Priest, then you will have to bleed all the targets that you can. At the low end of the list, we have Slice and Dice and Envenom. They are so low on the priority list because they are less valuable. If you have to spend combo points and one target doesn't have a Rupture up, you gain more damage by using Rupture than Slice and Dice. You also gain more energy by using Rupture than by using Slice and Dice, because of the passive Venomous Wounds. Slice and Dice increases your melee damage and gives you a bit more energy regeneration, that's true. But as I said, you get more damage by having a full Rupture on someone, and more energy with that same Rupture. As for Envenom, just like for Slice and Dice, a Rupture is more valuable usually if it's not already running. Most of your Envenoms will be on your Kidney Shot Shiv Goes anyway. Like when you're in a Kidney Shot in Shiv Go, you will not reapply Rupture, you will just Envenom, and at the end of your stun, only then will you reapply Rupture. Of course, if you have a lot of pressure, or if your target can't stabilize, you will prioritize Envenom over Slice and Dice to try and get a kill, and you won't cross half the map to drop a Rupture or a Garrote on the off target either, because if you're actually almost killing your main target, you will just stay and Envenom. So the priority list here is more some sort of guidelines, but you always have to adapt to the situation. For example, it isn't always wise to cross a map, let's say, versus an Affliction Warlock to try and dot someone else, as it is possible that you will not be able to come back to the Warlock because he will slow you, and meanwhile he will just do his PV rotation and you will die. So, yeah. Or as I just said, if your target is on 20%, it isn't wise either to go Rupture the healer that is 40 yards away and already has no mana, or to use Slice and Dice. You should just push for a kill. So I hope that the priority list helps you, but be sure to try and adapt depending on the positioning of the enemy team, if they are far from you or not, if it's easy for you to bleed several targets or not, their remaining mana, maybe it's not worth applying dots to everyone because you're already deep into dampening, they already have no mana, so you just train damage into one target, and also their current health, because obviously if you're killing someone, if you're really about to die, if they have no cooldowns, very little healing, there is no point in leaving this target be just because on the priority list, bleeding the other guy is higher than pressing Envenom. You just try to kill in that situation. And yeah, regarding what I said about Slice and Dice priority, this is right now, but Assassination will gain a new passive on the 9.0.5 PTR that will make Envenom increase the duration of Slice and Dice by 3 seconds per combo point. When we do get this passive, then Slice and Dice will be much more valuable as you will most likely apply it once or twice only at the start of the fight, or when you reopen if you went away, and then you will keep refreshing it with Envenom on your goes, so you'll actually gain damage out of using Slice and Dice very early on in the fight. This also means that playing with the Recuperator Conduit might also be good. We'll see for sure when this patch finally hits the live servers, but for now, yeah, Slice and Dice isn't amazing. I hope it will be better, because having an ability that is not useful for your class doesn't feel really good. Let's have a quick look at important macros. If you've watched my Salty Rogue guide, you will not see anything new here, but if you haven't, well, then maybe you will see something new. The first macro you need as a rogue is the sap macro. In Arena you have two ways to do it. Either you use a general sap macro that will attempt to sap anything near you, so if a stealthed enemy walks in front of you, you will sap him. That's what I use, you can see it right here. Or use macros to sap Arena 1, 2 or 3 depending on who is the stealthed enemy. Aside from this one macro, all you need is a way to use your CC spells on players that are not your targets. What I recommend for this is to have 3 keybinds to put Arena 1, Arena 2 and Arena 3 as focus, and then you only need to macro Sap, Blind, Cheap Shot, Kidney Shot, Garrote, Kick, Shadow Step and Poisoned Knife, so that they can either go on your focus or on your target. You will then change your focus depending on who you want to CC during a game. This will allow you to keep hitting your target while CCing another target, and that also allows you to be faster on the CC since you don't need to waste time swapping targets to land a CC, provided you have the right person in focus most of the time. So if you have to change focus, try to do it ahead of time. If you know that in a few seconds you're going to blind the enemy healer, then put the enemy healer as focus and wait for the right moment to blind. If you know that soon the mage will try to pull him off your healer, then put the mage as focus before so that you can step kick focus when the time comes. It might seem light, but that's really all that is required in terms of macros. I have a couple more, such as Shadow Step Party 1 or Party 2, so that I can step my ally without having to target him. Shadow Step Kick and Shadow Step Focus Kick Focus to land kicks without having to press two different buttons. Or Shadow Step Sap to be able to land saps easily on Demon Hunters who use Spectral Sight, for example. But the most important macros are the CC macros and focus targets. The rest is, um, if you find something convenient, then use it, but it's not required. If you learn to use the CC macros properly, you will perform much better in an arena environment. And to finish up with this guide, let's have a quick look at the arena comps available for Assassination Rogue. In 2 versus 2, you want to play with a healer always. The spec isn't really designed to play with another DPS, and since Salty is currently still decent, you will have to go Salty if you want to push rating as double DPS. As for the healers, you can play with, I would say, Discipline Priest, Restoration Shaman, Holy Priest, and Holy Paladin. With Discipline Priest, you have to play very aggressively as the mana available to your team will melt. You have an offensive purge, good damage, and mind games help you score kills. I personally really like this comp more than playing with other healers. With Restoration Shaman, it's kind of similar as you have the offensive purge as well. You have a bit of burst damage with the lava burst, you have CC with Hex, but you can play the long game a bit more since Shamans will not run out of mana easily. So you're less on a timer and a bit more defensive, but it's still kind of aggressive because Shaman bring that offensive purge that I said, and the CC. About the Holy Priest, I've not played with good Holy Priests very often, but I've seen the comp work quite well. The real advantage of playing with a Holy Priest instead of a disc is that you trade a bit of damage for a stun. As Assassination, you can't stun several targets as you would as sub, so you will often only kidney your kill target. The Holy Priest can then stun the enemy healer at the very same time, so you have both people in CC, and then he will casually walk for fear. Holy Paladin, well, Holy Paladin Assassination your Rogue used to work quite well, because Holy Paladins bring powerful cooldowns and also Hammer of Justice to use alongside Kidney Shot. But since Holy Paladin mana regeneration was heavily nerfed recently, it might not be that good of a comp anymore, as it takes a ton of mana to heal a rogue through Windwalker or Warrior damage, for example. The reason why Assassination Resto Druid would not work too much at the moment is because Assassination Rogue isn't that amazing of a spec. It's good, right? But it's not amazing. And Restoration Druids aren't exceptional either. So together they don't make for a really good comp because they are kind of both below average, I would say. But if either of them was really good, then the comp would work quite well because they have really good synergy. Like you dot someone, the Rodri stealth stuns the other someone, he also dots both people, then he clones one, the person can't be healed, then you clone the other, and so on and so on. That's really a fun comp to play. If you have the opportunity to play with a good restoration druid, go for it. As for Mistweaver, well, it never really worked with the rogue anyway, so and they are quite weak at the moment, so don't bother. In 3 vs 3, the best comps available to you are Rogue Mage Paladin with a Fire Mage, of course, and a Rogue Priest Shaman with a Shadow Priest and a Restoration Shaman. Rogue Mage Paladin plays the same way it did in BFA, so if you've played it, you know how to play it now. You can go for healers with Kidney into your Hodge and a ton of burst damage. You can go on DPS with Kidney on DPS and Hodge into Blinding Light or Polymorph on the enemy healer. So yeah, the Paladin can usually support the comp into a bit of dampening too, so that works quite well with the Wound Poison Assassination brings to the table, because you're actually good in dampening. But aside from this, it's a standard Rogue Mage comp. Rogue Priest Shaman also is also strong because as Assassination you have a lot of dot damage, just like the Shadow Priest, and you will apply your Wound Poison to every enemy. So you want to dot. Most of the time you will dot both DPS, and then you will create opportunities to score a kill with maybe Kidney on the DPS, silence on the healer into Mind Bomb, into Hex, stuff like this. It can be very hard to heal for the enemy healer. The constant pressure, the instant CC, the offensive purges from the priest and from the shaman. So you will remove the shields, you will remove buffs such as Divine Favor, you will remove procs from some classes. So it's a very oppressive comp, which can be very hard to deal with for the enemy if they don't know how to do it. And also, the Shaman's mana efficiency, as well as the Shadow Priest of healing, will allow you to go deep into dampening, where your dot pressure will win you the game easily. It's a really fun comp to play, so if you have the opportunity to play it, I'd recommend doing so. It's really nice. So while these two comps are the best for Assassination at the moment, you can still play Assa in, let's say, a standard RMP, so with a priest. It will be harder for the mage to get polymorphs, but your team will have a lot more damage and a ranged slow, so it works too. I think the rest of the comps that usually work with a rogue are, for now, weaker with an Assassination rogue than a salty rogue, so I would stay with those three comps. But, I mean, if you can make something work, go for it. Alright, that's it for this guide. I hope it could be really helpful if you want to play Assa in Arena this season, because it's starting to be good. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.